We're talking Victor Wembanyama's debut. The champs laid a smackdown on the Lakers, and even though it's one game, do the Warriors have an obvious ceiling? All that and more next on The Dime.
You are now listening to The Dime with Josh and Kwab, your go-to NBA podcast. Subscribe on Apple, follow on Spotify, and be sure to hit up the YouTube channel for video content. And now your hosts, Josh and Kwab.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Dime. The 2023-2024 season is underway, and we are here to overreact to everything, right,
Yes,
Kwab?
overreact.
Everything. This is
It's
hyperbole, baby.
Game one. Let's go crazy.
Let's go crazy. Let's go nuts. We're going to hit up NBA Twitter. We're going to have an overreaction segment, but we're happy that basketball's back. I'm a Knicks fan. Kwab's a Net fan. For those of you who are new to the show, we will be talking about our teams later as well. Obviously, not a good night for us, Kwab. Not a good night for New York basketball.
Hey, New York, baby. We
Woo!
did it. We're back.
Yeah!
Letting my team lose affect my mental health. It's back, baby. Let's
All
go.
right.
Yes.
All right. Well, another place that affects my mental health, that is Twitter. And let's take a stroll down NBA Twitter.
Yes, sir.
Did you just? I can't believe. Yes, you really tweeted that out. NBA Twitter, you are undefeated.
Yes, let's hit up the dark alley of social media. That is NBA Twitter. Me and Kwab, we picked out 3 tweets that were on our timelines. We're going to present them to you. We're going to react to them. Let us know what you think in the comments. Kwab, are you ready to do this?
Let's do it.
All right, first tweet comes from El Gubernardo. What? I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, but he's at Lucha Spurs Lucha, and he says, "No way around it. Wemby needs a point guard." And this was a quote tweet responding to a tweet that said, "Shohan absolutely cannot be our starting point guard." I agree with this, but to me, it's like I don't think you need a point guard. I think the point guard's on your team. in my opinion, I think he's the point guard. I think he's a solid point guard. He looks for his teammates. He doesn't really have the 3-ball yet, so teams kind of disrespect him and play off of him, but he can pass his basketball. He can run an offense. I don't think Shohan should be the point guard, but I think the answer's right on the team. But Kwab, I think you probably have more to say about that in general, right, about Wemby needing a point guard.
Yeah, I think having an actual playmaker on the floor could make a big difference for him, like, moving forward. I understand playing Shohan at the point because it gives him, like, a defensive versatility. Just when you see the team on the floor, it's like a really big, long team that can kind of switch everything, can kind of guard. When Jones came in, the offense just seemed to move a little bit better, but
he's the point guard. He's a point guard.
Because he's the point guard. Again, everybody. This is only game one, so again, these are. It could be different game 2, could be different game 3, but. Just going from game 1, or like, for example, Wemby got called for a couple of offensive fouls where he was setting a screen. And I think there was 1 or 2 where, like, the person who had the ball kind of moved too quick before the screen was fully set. Usually, it goes both ways. You need to, usually a veteran point guard knows to kind of be patient, hold, make sure the screen is set, because a lot of times you get those cheap offensive fouls get called on your big man. And also, there were multiple times, and I know people who watch the game, they were like, "Yo, Wemby's open. How come he's not getting the ball?" And I'm like, and I was confused too. I'm like, he's 7'12". Well, how are you missing him? Like, So yeah, I think they could benefit from a better playmaker on the floor. Maybe playing Jones more. Maybe getting another point guard. I don't know. But again, this is just game 1. But this is just a quick assessment. I agree with the tweet from game 1.
Yeah, I agree with the tweet too, but like I said, I think the point guard is on the roster. I think Trey Jones should be starting. Obviously he's not a scoring threat from the perimeter, and I think that in today's NBA, you need to have his jump shot at least. You got to be respectable from the 3-point line. And he was 2 for 3 today, and that's the knock on him. Like you saw the Mavericks kind of playing off on him, and he hit 2 threes. He had 16 points today. Also had 6 assists, 1 turnover. I think he's the man who you need to be starting. I think he's the person that you don't run the offense through. Obviously, he's not the best player on the team. But that point guard is on your team. You have someone on your team who is a facilitator, who's someone who thinks of other players first, and who can get Wemby the ball in the correct spots. Now, today, the Dallas Mavericks did a fantastic job, which is a weird thing saying, but forcing Wemby off of the spot in the post. They would not let him get the ball in the post. My criticisms of Wemby today, when he was on the court, actually, was that he was kind of settling for threes, and he seemed to want too much of the perimeter game, but at the same time, I have to give credit to the Dallas Mavericks defense because they just weren't letting him get the ball in the post and being effective in the post when he had the ball. So, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go to the outside because I can do that. But, that comes with, having a point guard, getting you in the right spot, directing traffic. And I think, again, that point guard's on the team. So I do agree with the tweet. I just think Greg Popovich, for whatever reason, doesn't trust Trae just yet to start or just wants to experiment with Shohan, who I like a lot. And I think is very versatile, but he doesn't have to be your starting point guard. It's kind of weird. It's like Draymond Green / Dennis Rodman running point, really. Because we've seen point forwards in the past. Like Lamar Odom is the prototype, right? But Shohan doesn't really play like that, really. I mean, he's a good basketball player, but he's not someone who I actually trust running my offense. So I agree with the tweet. I do agree with the tweet, but I think the answer is on the roster. Let's move on to the second tweet. It comes from Bobby Fake Name Esquire at Bob Fake Name ESQ, and he says, it's just very on brand for the NBA to have a generational talent making his debut, and then the officials determine floor time because they're calling every bullshit foul they can. Great work, everyone. Tune in tomorrow to see Wembanyama play 16 minutes with 4 fouls. Kwab, do you think the refs were too harsh on Wembanyama today?
Some of those fouls were fouls, so they got to call it.
They were all fouls, bro.
They were fouls. They got to call it. They got to call it. You got to call it. I know. I get it. He's the next big star. Everybody's tuned in to watch him. Game 1, and then he has 6 points and then 5 fouls, and he's just sitting for most of the game. But during that fourth quarter, when he was able to play, you saw why he was the number 1 pick when he went on that run by himself, and it was like you see the talent. So I get it. It's frustrating because you want him to play, but you got to stay out of foul trouble. And I tried to make that point earlier. Some of them, a couple of them were called for when he set like screens, so they were offensive fouls. He can't pick up like ticky-tack fouls like that. He has to be more. If you're getting called for fouls for maybe like you're trying to block a shot or something like that, that makes more sense. But getting called for ticky-tack fouls like that, you gotta be smarter than that, especially because the team needs him in order to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a mess on defense today. Obviously, I think he has the potential to be Defensive Player of the Year at some point in his career, but he was all over the place in help. He was reaching, he had that one highlight in the preseason in Oklahoma City where he
reached
stretched
across
arms.
Yeah. He was like at the 3-point line and like reached in the paint.
Bro. It was just unreal how fake it looked. And it was phenomenal, but he was going for that again a few times. And he's going to get that. Like, he's going to get a few steals like that for sure. But at the same time, you're playing against now Luka Doncic and the first team of the Dallas Mavericks. Like, this isn't preseason anymore, and these players are a little more crafty. Like, you're going to get called for that. Yeah. So I think he has to, A, get better at it, and B, be more selective when he does that, be a little more patient. But I think once he got his 5th foul in the beginning of the fourth quarter, when he came back, I liked the way he played closing out. Every 3 he closed out on, they missed. The Mavs missed, and even though he wasn't blocking the shot, you can tell that it was just kind of like, all right, Wemby's coming. I've seen the highlights. I gotta get this up.
It's a tall guy. It's a tall guy closing out on you. You're gonna think about it while you're pulling that shot. So it makes a difference.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next tweet, Kwab, I just a letter grade for Wembanyama's debut. I know it's kind of unfair because it's game 1 and the expectations and the hype are through the roof. But letter grade A through F.
F+. No, I think
he failed, but he failed fantastically.
Amazing. No, not at all. I think for him would be like a C. Like, it was because of the foul trouble. It was an average game for him. Like, if you look at the stat sheet, like, oh, he had this many points. I mean, it was like, okay, but he wasn't on the floor for that long. The team lost. He cares more about winning than his individual numbers. He's made that very clear. So I think if they won, he would have felt better about it. So I'll give it a C.
I'll give it a C-. I think it's kind of hard to give him more than a C when you really weren't on the court. His fourth quarter was really good when he came back. It reminded me of Zion's debut for people who may not remember.
Good call.
He didn't do much in the first half, and then all of a sudden he had this barrage of I don't know what it was, like 16 straight points.
Yeah, the bunch. He had like 4 or 5 threes or something. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, but he was on minutes restriction though, so he couldn't play. Yeah,
right. And coincidentally, it was against the Spurs. So it reminds me of that, where it was just like quiet, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, god damn, okay, I see it now. So I'll give it a C-, and that's not a knock on Wemby. I think Wemby's going to be fine. I do think the hype is real. I just think that he got into foul trouble. It's his first game in the NBA. It's okay. Like, you just got to learn from it. That's it. You know, this is a learning process for all rookies, except for Derek Lively, apparently.
It's a star. He looked like a star. Not from the preseason and just from this game, right? Do you think that he has the potential to win, like, not just Rookie of the Year, but like maybe Defensive Player of the Year, or somehow being the MVP conversation This year, do you think he has any chance?
This year?
I only ask that because everything he does seems just so like loud, like, because it's just gonna be plastered. You know what I'm saying?
The hype is there, bro. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So everything that he puts out is just gonna be like, even this game, like they're gonna just show the fourth quarter highlights. Be like, oh, he didn't play, but this is what he did. So I don't know if that affects the voters moving forward.
I think it might affect the Rookie of the Year voting. His final stat line was 15 points, 5 rebounds, which is very average.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that you kind of like toot your horn about. But I do think the potential's there for the Rookie of the Year. But Defensive of the Year, no. You can just tell by the way he plays help defense that he's not completely polished yet to be a defensive force night in and night out. I think he's going to get into foul trouble. I wouldn't say a lot, but there are going to be games where he's in foul trouble. I think he needs to learn how to stay on the court. I think he needs to learn how to be smarter when in help. I think he needs to learn a little. He wasn't rotating well, if I'm being completely honest with you, in the first half. I think that was part of it. So Defensive Player of the Year, not yet. I think that'll be like a couple years from now. MVP, not yet. I still think it'll be a couple years from now. And if I'm going to be completely honest with you, like, the one knock I have on his game, he just looks awkward to me. Like, he just, like, I know he's kind of hard to stop because he's 7'4" and he can shoot and all that. But, like, comparing it to even someone like Porzingis, who was, like, the original unicorn, to me, Porzingis looks more smooth with the basketball. Like, he looks more compact when he just looks like it's more natural. With Wemby, it looks like he's a giraffe falling over himself.
I mean, he's still 19. He's still growing.
No, I know. And that's crazy, too. Like, he'd be like 7'7" next year.
Right, nuts.
And I don't say that to insult him, but I'm just saying, like, that's the one thing when I watch him where I'm just like, man, he's going to be good. I know he's going to be good. But there's something about the way he moves. It's like he's in slow motion and he's falling on him. He just kind of looks clumsy when he plays. It doesn't look like tight and compact. And I'm not saying Porzingis is better than him or is going to be, like, and all that jazz. Like, I don't know what Wemby's going to be, but to me, like, that's the one thing that I don't feel like a lot of people are really talking about when it comes to him. They just kind of talk about his potential, which I understand. But to me, like, when I watch him play, like, there's, like, nothing is really smooth. It's, like, very, like if, like, it's just always like he's about to fall over at any time. Like, but I think he'll be fine. All right, so we go to the final tweet. It comes from Joke in a Box at Joker WRLD, which is Joker World, I assume. And Joker World says, Celtics, Suns, and Lakers all look mid so far. If the Bucks don't impress tomorrow, I'm afraid the Nuggets own the league. God damn. That was quick, bro. It's one game. Talk about overreaction.
It's one game. Big overreaction right there. But again, like we said from the start of the show, it's going to be a lot of overreactions because it's only day 2 of the NBA season. So and people are like falling out. So yeah, I mean, the Nuggets are the best team in the league.
Yeah, like, of course they're going to make teams look mid, bro. Yeah. Like, they just now the Lakers, I think, are a really good team. I think have a chance, you know, when the playoffs come around, depending on what happens in the trade deadline and health and all those good things. Like, the Lakers are a title contender to me. I mean, I don't think they're better than the Nuggets. I'm not going to pick them over the Nuggets in a series today. But yeah, them losing on the road to Denver doesn't mean that they're mid. It is what it is. Like, that was what was supposed to happen. And then the Celtics and Suns are 2 teams that won. So,
I guess everybody expected, like, pure dominance, like.
But that's not how the NBA is.
But that's not how the
NBA
is, bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't play out that way. Even the Suns, like, they were struggling shooting that game, but they still pulled out the victory, like.
Right.
And the Celtics had a rough game, but they still won.
Against teams that were in the playoffs last year. The Suns were going against the Golden State Warriors, who have Steph Curry, one of the last dynasty we've had in this league. And then the Celtics were in Madison Square Garden playing in a hostile environment. So it's like, yeah, let's relax a little bit here. Okay? I mean, even the Bucks come out and look mid tomorrow. It doesn't mean that all these other teams are mid and the Denver Nuggets are the only elite team in the league.
Everybody's mid.
Yeah, they're the champions. They're gonna look better than everybody else. They have more chemistry than everybody else. Other teams have to catch up to them. But to say they own the league after one game, that's wild, bro.
It's crazy.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
And he didn't watch the Orlando Magic play today.
They own the league. That was dominance. That was dominance. Speaking about the Celtics Knicks game, how did you feel about the Knicks for throughout the course of that game? I know you were watching and you were tweeting some about it as you were watching your team go to battle against the potential best team in the East.
So there was only one point during that whole game where I thought the Knicks were going to win.
Okay.
And that's when Quentin Grimes hit the three and got fouled. I was like, oh, crap. Like, I think they're actually going to win this game.
There's a chance.
But for the whole, yeah. I mean, even when they were winning, the Knicks had no business winning that game. They really didn't. The Celtics played way better than the whole game. The Knicks played good in spurts. And then, like, they caught kind of fire and caught some chemistry in the fourth quarter. But they had no business winning that game. The Celtics were the better team for most of that game. And the Celtics are the better team. And I think as a Knicks fan, it's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit that they got beat by a better team. Now, my concern from the Knicks are the fact that coming into this season, I was like, all right, well, you want more contributions from Quentin Grimes. You want more contributions from other players, but the offense is still the same. You know what I mean? There's no new actions. Like, I didn't see Quentin Grimes coming off double screens on a curl for a jump shot. I didn't see him running the pick and roll. I didn't see him leading the fast break. Everything with Jalen was the same. You know what I mean? I'm not even talking about Quentin Grimes. I'm about, how about let's get Jalen Brunson going in a different way? How about we get Julius Randle going in a different way? There really wasn't much of anything that was new going in that I saw in this game. And that's kind of concerning for me because I feel like if the Knicks want to take the next step forward, if they want to break that ceiling of, oh, we're just a second-round team, they have to be a little more creative on offense. And that falls on Tibbs, obviously, because now I'm evaluating the Knicks in the sense of like, okay, obviously I want this team to be a championship team. Is Tibbs the coach to take him to the next level? He's obviously a good coach. He's obviously done a great job with the organization. But is he the Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr? I don't know yet. You know? So that's what's concerning to me. I just think the offense looked brutal. RJ played well. Him and Quickly were the best players on the team today. Quickly, especially because Quickly can create his own shot. You know what I mean? And so can Jalen and so can Julius, and that's how you thrive in this offense. But there needs to be easier baskets. There needs to be, layups and things of that nature. And everything is just kind of ISO. And they were just playing into the Celtics' hands the whole night. Boston's defense is really good. They're really long. They cover so much ground. I mean, they played drop coverage on the pick and roll the whole time, and they were able to cover, Brunson on the pick and roll. If he got into the paint, they were helping, and they were really good defensively today. And I think Knicks fans shouldn't get too down on the fact that they lost to, in my opinion, the best team in the East. But I do think it's kind of concerning that really nothing has changed in the sense of how the offense is run. I'm not worried about Jalen Brunson having a bad shooting night. I'm not worried about Julius Randle having a bad shooting night. To me, it's just kind of all right, this is going to be the same offense we saw last year, which is going to cap us at a second-round team at best.
Were there any positives that you took away from the game?
I think RJ was more aggressive. I liked how aggressive RJ was. His shots changed. It looks awkward, but he's taking he's taking these step back shots that he hasn't taken.
Okay.
And to me, I think that's good because I think he needed to add that to his repertoire. I want to see a step back jumper from RJ here and there. I want to see him create off the dribble and create some space for a jumper. So that's something. He would just go to the rim, and if he finished, he finished. If he didn't, he didn't. It's nice to see that from him. Quickly, I was worried that. I wouldn't say I was worried that he was going to come out and be sour about the non-contract extension, but he came out like he had something to prove and that he was cool with it, and he was the best player on the Knicks today. I think Emmanuel Quickly was the best player on the Knicks today. So, to me, those are positives. Hartenstein looked great. Aside from that, though, I mean, it's it's kind of weird watching a team knowing that their ceiling is capped at the second round. So it's I'm in for a good season. We're gonna have a lot of fun, but inevitably we're gonna lose to the Bucks or Celtics in the second round unless something changes.
I mean, I'll say this: Tibbs is known to make some drastic changes mid-season at times. If it's that
happened last year.
Yeah, shorten the rotation or whatever it is. So this again, it's only game one, so things could change. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, it's against the Celtics, too, man. They got the Hawks next, but they got a brutal early season schedule. And to me, I just kind of want them to weather the storm. And Knicks fans, don't get too crazy if they're like 6-6 after 12 games because their schedule's tough, man. Yeah. They got the Hawks, but then they got like the Pelicans. I know they got a bunch of tough teams to start the season. And the Pelicans look good today, and Zion is back. So yeah, we'll see. Kwab, what about your Nets, man? I saw the Nets were upsetting with like a minute left, bro. What the fuck happened?
Nets basketball is back. That's what it means. What do you mean? What happened?
The hell happened, dude?
Nets basketball is back. I'm not even look. Okay,
I saw Cam Thomas all over Twitter, bro. Like all my Net fan friends are just like tweeting about Cam. Like, all right, so he's having a Cam game.
He had 36 off the bench.
Yeah, and then like I checked the score. They were upset. Like, oh, they're gonna win this game, and they fucking lost.
See, that's that's the difference between you and I. So I was watching the game, and it was like they got down to like 4. I'm like, yo, they're gonna lose this game, aren't they? That's what I was saying while I was watching. I'm like, they're about to lose this game to a funky way because it's the Cavs, and they found a way to lose the game to the Cavs. Cam Thomas played great off the bench. I forget who I picked for my 6th man of the year in the previous episode. I might have to
Brogdon.
I did pick Brogdon. I don't know why I picked Brogdon. I was reaching.
I don't know why you did that. I tried to tell you not to do it, but you didn't listen to me.
I was tweaking that episode. You can go back. You know what I mean? Some of my picks were what I was tweaking. I should have went Cam, but I didn't know if I didn't know how much Cam was going to start. He was going to start or he was going to come off the bench. He was coming off the bench, and he just has that ultimate green light like that. That was like the one positive. All off season and preseason, they've talked about, we have a lot of defensive pieces. It's going to be a defensive team. They want to play drop coverage. They stink at drop coverage. They need to stop playing drop coverage because my big thing about, like you were talking about just about the Celtics, right? The Celtics are able to play drop coverage because they have their 2 guards with Drew and Derek White can recover from the screens and contest still.
Yeah.
So there's a high level of activity with that. Watching the Nets throughout preseason and this game, I'm just like, please, just go back to switching or something. I hate the scheme. The starters were struggling. Mikal Bridges ended up having a decent game, but like for most of like the first 3 quarters, he was just playing rough. He hasn't really been playing well since he got back from Team USA. I don't know if it's because of that or because he's been wearing the Sabrina Nikes. But the Sabrina ones, but
okay.
But the other thing, people were like, "Oh, Ben Simmons is back. Ben Simmons is back." He looked like he missed his first couple of shots, and he looked like the same old. Like if you look at his stats, his stats, it was like 10 rebounds, 9 assists, like 4 points. Where like there were 3-4 times where he had easy shots and he passed them up. He's still throwing up that weird hook shot with the wrong hand.
Come on, Ben.
I don't know, man. It's going to be a great season. I'm excited. I'm excited to yell at my TV for 2 hours or whatever. Woo! It's back. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's basketball's back, so.
Yeah, we'll give you constant Knicks and Nets updates. I'm sure you guys who aren't fans of their teams are excited about that.
Yeah, you really want to hear that, but you're gonna hear it. Sorry. That's what's going to happen.
All right, let's end the show with some overreactions. These are statements that Kwab and I heard all around the world on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, between our friends. General statements that we think are overreactions or maybe not overreactions, depending on what the statements are. So let's go through them. Statement number 1, Kwab. Devin Booker looks like a league MVP already.
After one game, yeah.
After one game.
After one game,
do you think he will be in the MVP conversation this year? How about that?
I think he will be just because the Suns should have a very high seed in the West. He's been playing fantastic because when you have KD and all these other good players on the team in terms of shooting, you can't really double team him, so he has more space to operate. And he's also been moving the ball well. I think he had 8 assists that first game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see him being an MVP conversation. I think the only thing that's gonna end up hurting him is because he has KD and Bradley Beal on this team.
It's going to kill his chances.
That's what's going to kill his chances. Yeah.
This whole thing, Devin Booker's winning MVP is ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. He's not the best player on this team, first of all. Kevin Durant's still the best player on that team. And I think a lot of it just comes from the fact that he was able to read the pick and roll for 3 straight plays. And people are like, oh, my God, he can pass? This is wild. I didn't know that he can pass.
You say that now. Not a lot of people can read the pick and roll, though.
No, I know. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like it wasn't the right play and that it wasn't impressive and that I would like to see more of that from him. But it's like, to me, it wasn't like something where there are performances you have where it's like for instance, Luka, when he had like 60 and whatever last year, you're like, oh, shit, like MVP, okay. Like there are certain performances where it's like, oh, like that to me is like a stamp, like this is going to be an MVP campaign. Devin Booker had a fantastic game, but it wasn't like this earth-shattering, like put the league on notice. I'm winning the MVP this year. Like, come on, like he played fantastic. He ended the game with like 3 or 4 straight assists. I forgot it was 3 or 4. Read the pick and roll. I get it. Like it's exciting to see like someone who Devin Booker who's known as a scorer like do other things. But let's not get out of hand here. Kevin Durant is still the best player on the team. It's very possible tomorrow against the Lakers, Durant has 40 and Booker has like 16, and all of a sudden it's like this is the biggest overreaction ever. I like Devin Booker a lot. He's an all-star. He's probably the best shooting guard in the league, but I do not think because of how the Suns are currently constructed that he has a chance of winning the MVP. And maybe I'll eat my words. We'll see. All right, statement number 2. This came from Charles Barkley. He said, the Warriors are the 4th best team in California. Charles Barkley, shots fired. Wow. So Lakers, Clippers, Kings, all better than the Warriors. That's not the wildest thing in the world, Kwab. I don't know if that's overreaction.
He was flaming them the whole game.
I'll take the Warriors over the Kings still, but I don't.
Whoa! Surprise! This is a callback to our season preview episode. Surprise! Josh doesn't rate the Kings.
You think the Kings are better than the Warriors?
I just said I'm not saying they are. I'm not. Do I think the Kings are better than the Warriors? You can make the argument.
I think you make the argument for sure.
You can make the argument.
I don't think this take is that much of yeah, I don't think this is like an overreaction. I think it's a little bit of a hot take, but I don't think it's like a ridiculous overreaction hot take for sure. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise anybody if 20 games in, I change my mind and say, no, the Kings are better. But I do think I am worried about the Warriors and their ceiling. I don't think this Warriors team is a championship team. I don't. This is just.
Okay, hold on. Sorry to cut you off, but do you think that they're better than? Do you think they're better than the Clippers? Because we always have the Clipper conversation. We always have the Clipper conversation.
The Clippers conversations. It's like if we had a friend John.
What up, John?
John was like a really nice guy, right?
Very nice guy, John.
Bipolar as hell, and it's just like, damn, like there's times John is like a dick, and then sometimes like he's
the best guy around. He's the best guy. You're like, yo, we want John around, but then you're like,
he has dissociative identity disorder, and sometimes he just like turns into another person, and it's just like, or he's just like depressed, and he's like not like he doesn't call us for like 2 months. It's like I haven't seen you, so like you're asking me like, is John like?
Okay, so you say that, right? But then you have another friend in Golden State Warriors. That's like your friend Bob.
Right,
Bob has been very consistent for years.
Right, but now he started to slack off a little bit.
How? Just because of 1 year?
No, not because of 1 year.
He slacked off. He slacked off 1 year because the previous year he was all right.
Yeah, but Bob lost his job. Bob's a little irritable lately. He's not the same Bob that we used to know.
But Bob is a legend. Yeah,
Bob is a legend, but Bob's past his prime.
According to who?
According to everybody. According to like Bob is not what he used to be at all.
Because what he used to be, let's say what he used to be is like here,
Bob was the best
all the way.
Bob might have been the greatest guy I ever met in my life.
Okay, but Bob is still like, maybe he's not the greatest, but he's still great to like good great. To great. But then you're gonna
now he's like.
But then you're gonna you're picking Bob.
Arrogant now.
So, but then you're picking John over Bob right now. John, who you don't know what's gonna happen with John tomorrow or the day after. But maybe sometimes John's
on it right now. But John's on his meds right now.
But
so John is like he's stable.
Here's my thing, right?
We're seeing a very good representation. Okay.
Here's my thing. What has John done in the past to prove to you that he's gonna stay on his meds?
That's the thing. I don't trust.
You
John
don't
to
know,
stay on his meds.
but Bob is.
But what I'm saying is, right now, John is on his meds, and John is stable. And I just had a conversation with John in Portland, and he was as healthy as I've ever seen him before. And he was fantastic.
But Bob, there are still aspects of Bob that are still great, though. You're acting like Bob fell off the cliff, and Bob doesn't
is
look
fantastic. No, Bob is
okay.
still
For all the listeners, we've taken this so far, and we could keep going. This is
no, we are going to keep going. But Bob is still. Don't get me wrong. Bob is still the man. I love Bob. Bob is great, and but Bob is just kind of going through a funk right now. We all go through funks, bro.
It's one game.
But it's not one game. It's not.
It's one game without Draymond. First of all, without Draymond. Also, to boot.
Bob doesn't have the car. Bob doesn't have the car.
Bob doesn't have the car. If you looking back on that game against the Suns, the one thing that stood out to me was that I was not really surprised, but like the Warriors played really good defense overall. Like they played really good defense on KD. And a couple other players. There's actually their main thing that they struggled with was rebounding and size, which we all knew was going to be an issue. Not having your future Hall of Fame big man in Draymond, regardless of how you people feel, he's going to end up being in the Hall of Fame, just in case. But not having him on the floor,
it
is what it is. Not having him on the floor I feel like it made a difference. Now I don't know moving forward how that impacts them maybe in the playoffs if they run into a team with bigger size or whatever it is, but. I just feel as though people are like looking at them and being like, the Warriors are done, you're washed, and to me it's like
that's fair.
You know, what I mean, I just don't. I don't.
I just think that when I get what you're saying, and I think that's fair. You know, I think when the ceiling was so high, I mean, they were literally the best team I've ever seen in my life.
Ever. I think hands down.
So for me, when you come down back to earth, where it's like, we might be a championship contender, it's like that's a little underwhelming. But I do think, I think they need a bigger guy. I think Kuminga needs to grow into his role. Draymond obviously needs to come back. I don't think Klay's the same defender he used to be. Everyone talks about him offensively, but I think defensively too. Like that's a big part of why the Warriors are so good back in the day was because you had Draymond, but you also had Klay. Like defensively, it was ridiculous. So, they're not as good as they used to be, which is true. And I still think they're a playoff team. I still think that they're one of the better teams in the league. But as far as like being a championship contender and honestly being the fourth best team in California, I don't think that's a stretch considering that the other three teams in California are pretty freaking good. But I do have them better than the Kings right now, for now. And I'll take John over Bob right now. John's on his meds.
You have him. You have him better than the Kings, and but you don't have him better than the Clippers. I'm just making sure.
I going into the season, I did.
Okay.
And
you
our
don't
next
have
power rankings, I might have to change that.
And you don't have the Kings better than either of them. Just making sure.
Right now, correct.
Okay. I'm still
I
out
gotta
here.
I gotta see. Listen, it's one game. We're overreacting a little bit. So like the Warriors win the next three games by 20 points, and I'll be like, okay, I'm a little. But to me, I had concerns going into the season with the Warriors, and I kind of saw them all in the first game. Okay. Granted, they were playing the Suns without Bradley Beal, but they were playing the Suns, so it's not like they were playing a scrub team. They were playing against a team that can win the championship. True. And we got to keep that in mind as well. All right, let's go into the last overreaction. Statement number 3. Anthony Davis will never be a number one option you can rely on. Whew. Anthony Davis had a good first half against the Nuggets and scored 0 points in the second half. Jokic embarrassed. AD's could be the best, and this is not an exaggeration, he could be the best defender in the world, and Jokic made him look like just another guy.
Jokic is not a good matchup for him. It just comes out like that's right. A big factor. Like Jokic is bigger, stronger, moves slower than him, but still like at his own bit, like
just smart basketball player.
Yeah, Jokic had a triple double. He looked like the MVP. Jokic, like he's just going at his face, making everything happen. I think the problem with AD is always going to be the consistency. Now, last season when LeBron was out, he played amazing. Though he had a stretch where he basically kept the Lakers afloat. He was the best player on the floor and kept the Lakers afloat and helped them get in the playoffs. Like he played amazing. The problem is that he always has these high and low moments and high and low games. And I know Lakers fans. I heard some of the Lakers spacers were going crazy. We're obviously frustrated with him because it's the same thing that happened during the playoffs, where he would have like a 30 and 15 game, and then it would be like 8 or 9. You're like, yo, are you okay? How come you're so hot and cold all the time? LeBron has been trying to give AD the keys since like he got there. He's like, oh, it's gonna be AD's team. It's gonna be AD's team. And then, for example, the game yesterday, LeBron only played 29 minutes. And people are like, "Yo, he needs to be on the floor." And I'm like, "He's 50. He needs to be able to sit down, and the offense still needs to be able to run it. With AD." And so I feel like it is a bit over. I understand why the overreaction is happening, but it's a bit of an overreaction. And also to boot, the last thing I'll say is that, yes, he didn't score a single point in the second half, but people also have to realize that he also has to guard the best player on the other team. Like, he's exerting a lot of energy on the other side of the floor also, which doesn't get a lot of credit. But he is playing a lot of defense, and then you also expect to dump him the ball and be like, yo, go get a bucket. But that's why they pay him the big bucks. So I understand why people feel the way they feel.
Yeah, I understand it too, but I think it's a little bit of an overreaction too, just simply because when they won the championship back in the bubble, AD was incredible. And to me, that proved that he can be a number one option that you can rely on. I think he still has it in him. He has been inconsistent, that's true, but I think a lot of it has to do with also injuries a little bit. And let's be honest, I mean, Jokic is the best player in the world, and it was the first game of the season in Denver, which is hard to play in, by the way. I mean, I can't breathe walking up the steps. So I can't even imagine what I'd be like in Denver. So to me, I think it's a little bit of a overreaction. I think AD's going to be fine. I think he is capable of having another run like he did in 2020. After 2020, I was like, he might be the best power forward ever. Like, he's on his way. Like, in my head, like I was literally on shows like being like, yeah, he's going to be better than Dirk. And now I look stupid. But I think he has that potential. Now, whether or not he fulfills that, that's another story. But I do think it's a little bit of an overreaction. Like, you can't rely on him, especially from Laker fans, when you saw that you can. You won a championship with him. So I think you need to pump the brakes a little bit. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Dime. Basketball's back, baby. Kwab, thanks for hopping on, man. You ready to do this all season long? Can you do this?
Yeah, hopefully the losing on our teams doesn't happen all season long. But yeah, I'm ready to do this all season long.
I might have to bring back a segment. Actually, I don't even want to say what the segment is. I'll just catch it by surprise. I don't even know how that's going to work from a video standpoint, but we'll make it work. For those of you who have been listening for the podcast for a long time, I think you know what segment I'm talking about. It involves a bridge. I'll just leave it at that. If you guys want to follow The Dime, you can at The Dime NBA on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do us a favor and do that. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple, please give us 5 stars and leave a review. We'll see you in a couple days, right, Kwab? We'll see.
Yes,
we'll see how we'll see what happens. If there's any news, if James Harden gets traded, anything like that, you'll see us again.
More overreactions are happening. You know, it's going to happen.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah, we'll be here. We're going to try to record as much as possible. So, yeah, make sure you subscribe. Until next time, we'll see you for another episode of The Dime.